Welcome to this episode of the Thinking Big podcast. In today's episode, we are talking with Mike Skrypnek on how to give $1 million to charity every year while 10xing your business and your life. Mike is a transformational business coach, 5-time author, international speaker, and Mike's Grow, Get, Give philosophy holds the key to success that the world's most successful entrepreneurs know, and he's implemented to achieve a big impact in his life and the lives of thousands of entrepreneurs, advisors, business owners, and the millionaires next door. Today, we are going to think big on giving, because if you're not giving, you're not growing.
Welcome to the Thinking Big podcast with Sean Osborn, the show helping you think bigger into your life and potential. Sean believes by equipping you with the tools, strategies, and philosophies required to be successful in all aspects of your life, you can achieve anything you believe in. Empowering our own growth makes a deeply positive and lasting impact on our lives, community, and our world. Now, here's Sean.
Now, before we start and before we get into it, I've been on your website and I've looked at a lot of your stuff. One of the things that jumped out at me was one of your blog posts that I truly believe in, and that is do epic shit. So tell me a little bit about that, because that is that is something that is big to me, that you've got to do things scared and you got to do it often.
You read a few of the blogs for sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a do epic shit. Well, it's our family. My wife and I grew up as athletes, high performance athletes. I was always taught by my parents and my family that really there wasn't anything I shouldn't give a shot. Like I could do anything. They basically convinced me early on that I could do anything I wanted to, and I believed them. And with youth and enthusiasm, I pretty much tried everything I could do. And sometimes it validated that, and other times it didn't. But we just live by, a number of years ago, we made a decision to uproot our life from urban center of Calgary, Alberta, which is about 1.1 million people, kind of Denver north. And Denver is very similar. It's foot of the Rockies and all that. And we'd always enjoyed doing big things. Like I've done triathlons, I've played sports, I write books, and before I do all that, I knew nothing about them.
Right.
Right. And I just endeavor. And so it's kind of had its own reward system in that every time we do amazing things, good things happen. Right. Or at the very least, really bad things didn't happen. So we uprooted our family to help our children at our late teens pursue some of their biggest dreams. And it really comes down from a what if thing. Like, what if we did this, right? What if we just said, to hell with conventionality, let's go and do something amazing. And then it's now become such a part of our lifestyle that what we consider normal, other people would be blown away at. And, we're not trying to keep pushing our thresholds. We're not jumping out of planes yet.
It's fun.
Maybe when the kids are older. But, we're always doing things. My kids are downhill mountain bike racers. My daughter does Muay Thai, kickboxing and fighting and arts, and she's in, special effects makeup. And so all of these really cool things, we just said, if that's where your heart is, and if even curiosity is, just do it.
Right.
And so we just kind of make a habit of doing epic shit. And, the more epic it is, the more cathartic, the more focusing and almost meditative it becomes. I know that's hard maybe for some people to understand, but when I'm doing something like racing my bike down a downhill trail, there is nothing else at that moment, because if I lose my concentration or focus, I'm in some peril.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely,
that's a helpful thing I find to calm my mind and just bring it together. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to get into Leadville 100. That's one of my bucket lists, is to do the Leadville 100. Not completely downhill, but it's it would be a pretty fun event. So when you were doing this stuff, did that is that kind of when you realized, that you weren't living your passion? When did you get to the point where you knew that, hey, I'm not living the way that I wanted to. I'm not living passionately. What triggered that? What was the events that led you to know that you weren't living your passion?
Interestingly enough, Sean, that was a dozen years ago. We're having a major world crisis at this time. In 2008, there was a massive world crisis. Everybody was quite concerned that we were heading into a depression.
Right.
And by that point, I was in mid-career as a financial services executive. And, I was really living a Wall Street, Gordon Gecko, greed is good kind of existence 5 days a week, but about 60 hours. And around the periphery, I was really community volunteer, soccer coach, family guy. My heart was in giving back and being involved in community and family and personal development. And here I was living like the drive. It's just so, and for me, I just said, when the tide goes out and you're revealed either to have your underwear on or no shorts on. I just felt like it was revealing at that moment that I really wasn't doing what I loved passionately every day.
Right.
And so I thought, well, what's the most important thing? How can I not like quit everything? I know I had a young family. There's no way you can just throw everything to the wind. How can I do this in the business I have and kind of bring it all together? And I basically just wrote on a whiteboard in my office, how do I like give $1 million away to charity every year? Like do that. And I didn't have $1 million. I didn't have a clue how to do it. And I was an industry that valued hoarding capital and not giving it away.
That's right.
So it was a pretty auspicious start with an audacious goal. And I just figured it out. I just figured out how to do it, how to build a business that you could, that was rewarding, that would give you time and freedom to be with your family, and then ultimately help others redirect so that we were about $12.5 million by year 6 of this $1 million goal. So I was able to kind of put it all together. And for me, that just really reinforced, just like any other thing that didn't hurt you or didn't kill you or maim you,
Right.
Tend to go, well, I can do that again and again. Not only that, but maybe I can help others because now I have some real wisdom and it worked. It wasn't like someone told me and I was hoping to coach them along and, I'd never done it. I actually lived it and I figured out at 10 times your business and not work as much and, have this massive charitable impact. I'm like, I could teach others. So that's where my attention has gone the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. Now, I think there is a connection between giving and getting. I think you have to. Do you think your goal to set out and give actually enhanced your ability to get?
Oh, well, without a doubt, right? Like impact mindset is think about it that way. Think instead of just because I think people have a really constrained view of what giving means. I think
Right.
people link it with financial, and that was how it materialized. But that's not what I gave. It's like Oprah. Oprah, they say Oprah gives millions and millions and millions of dollars with her book club. But what she really did is fundamentally change literacy in the United States through
Right.
her book club.
Right.
It wasn't all this angel network financial thing. It was actually a fundamental cultural shift in approaching reading.
Right.
And so I look at it that way. If you have an impact mindset, the goal is less about what the dollar could be, or maybe it is the dollar. It depends on what you're doing.
Right.
But when you set out with that, you open your life and your business and everything in your heart to possibility. And what it really means is if you want to have a major impact, no one knows. There's no clear path on how to do that exactly. And so you have to be open to opportunity. You have to be open to new things. And the moment you do that and say yes and yes and yes, stuff comes back to you. So you create, I think maybe more, on a cosmic level, you're creating space where energy comes back. I don't really usually go into that, but that's kind of what it is. You're creating space,
Yeah.
and it's got to be something that fills it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's energy. I agree 100%. I've had the opportunity to work with one of the guys that does philanthropy for several of the billionaires in the country. And when I talk to him, it absolutely amazes me on how passionate these guys and women are about giving. And it's like their mission to give what they have. I mean, it is absolutely, and it blows me away when I talk to them, and it's stuff that they do, but it is truly one of the things that every single one of them, characteristics that every single one of them has, was they give back and they use philanthropy to a great deal.
No question. I think, there's definitely something physiological. There's a chemical response. We get an endorphin rush. We kind of get that feedback loop. So, no different than a food or like a satiation. We get a feedback about giving. And you have to think about it. Like, really, if you're the giver or the benefactor, and you're giving, you really understand the connection between what you hope, your intention, and what maybe the future result could be or even is.
Right.
But if you're on the receiving end, if you're the beneficiary, chances are the last thing in the world that you're thinking about is the benefit for the giving person, right?
Right.
You could care less what the benefactor gets out of it, because you're desperate, you need the help, whatever it might be. So if you're a beneficiary of charity, you don't really care, and it's not as gratifying. You're just surviving in some way, right? And on the other side, the benefactor has an opportunity to step back and really dial in what it means for them personally. So I think that there's absolute merit in it, both physiologically and psychologically, that giving begets, better feelings, a sense of we must continue. It reinforces itself, and it just perpetuates that whole premise.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think it is.
It does, right?
Yeah. And I think when you do that, you do send out an energy into the universe that returns back. I mean, to me, it's really a law. I mean, it's you give and you get. I mean, it's simple as that.
No question.
Yeah. So is that what drove you to, I know you've got several, but the book that you have, Grow, Get, Give, is that what drove Grow, Get, Give?
Yeah, it was part, like, all of it is giving back. So when I turn my attention, when I help families in the financial service industry, I was helping families redirect their wealth. I was helping baby boomers, 55 to 75-year-olds who had done it, had already made their mark, had their financial success, and now we're considering the future. And, that was great. And we certainly accomplished a lot. But here I was wondering about all these lessons that essentially I was teaching financial lessons to people like that. And they were teaching me other lessons about their life and growing and being successful in their contemplations. And they always said, if I only knew 20 years ago what I know now, it might have been different. I might have been able to do it. I wouldn't have waited to have my impact until today. And so I was just driven by that motivation that, I can go and work with entrepreneurs, and I've been looking at companies for 22 years and, all this ability that I had to understand a business owner, entrepreneur, not to mention I had been one for so long, that I could share that wisdom and then share my experiences. So Grow, Get, Give, Entrepreneur Secrets to a Grow, Get, Give Life, were really about how do you create a successful, call it a 10 times business. How do you get more freedom for you and your family to think and be creative and just enjoy life? Right. And how do you give back for bigger impact? Like, all of those components are kind of my give back. Like, I implemented all the things in the book and they worked. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the book.
Right.
So, 90 plus secrets or tips or whatever you want to call them, having had those work, I thought, well, it's I have to give this out. I have to give that information to the world. And lots of it is just synthesis. I'm synthesizing other people's or other experiences. It's just not all, my original thought.
Right.
But it's practical work that, when implemented right, allows a person to have big impact. And here's what I'm finding, Sean, more and more and more. And I think it might even be a generational thing, a Gen X thing. And that is, we're getting, I'm turning 50 very shortly. I don't know about where you fit in that ladder.
I'm on the north side of that.
but a lot of my peers we believe what our parents taught us, and
Yep.
now as you work hard, you stick with it, you build your business, and it all work out. A lot of people I know, they did that, and they were unfulfilled.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of going, is there more? Where is the more in my life? And I'm young enough that I still have energy, I'm valuable to society, and I can contribute. And so I'm finding a lot of this, and I really believe that the message that I share and grow get give is really about lifting those people up and giving them a direction, and saying, yeah, you can still make a massive impact. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. You can actually be ready today and just do it alongside of everything. It's just, so I just feel like it's a give. Like I have to give this to society, and it's also part of the way, how I make my living.
Right. And for people, I mean, I think in general, books are probably one of the best ways for us to grow. I mean, it took you years of practical experience, of education, of learning, of to write this book. And for someone to be able to go and get a book for pennies on the dollar compared to the true life experience, and get what out of a book is, to me, that is a huge give uh, to us. I mean, that's spending the time to do that, and take your time to develop a book is, man, I'll tell you, what you give back is really huge. So thank you for that. I mean, that is a big thing to do. And for people who don't read a lot of books, I'm telling you, that is the best way to grow yourself, for personal development, is go and learn from someone who's done this for 20 years, and you can read a book and get a really good grasp of what they've done. So yeah, again, that is great. What is probably one of the best ways for someone to get started? Someone who is making good, a decent amount of money, they're comfortable. What is a good way for someone to start giving back and getting into the philanthropy? I mean, a lot of people want to do it, but they really don't know how to start.
Yeah, so I share a lot in the give section of that book, and thank you very much, Sean. I appreciate that you appreciate that there's a lot in there. That was my fifth book, and it was a culmination of everything that came before. And in the give section, I wrote a couple of books on philanthropy only. So this is kind of like the best of
Right.
the greatest hits, if you will. And it really does start, like I investigated what Oprah and Bono and Brand in my very first book on philanthropy. It was about how these modern day philanthropic icons, how they got to that point. And then I interviewed a pile of people who were kind of leaders in the community, and they all kind of had the same journey in philanthropy and giving. And it ultimately starts, like I learned very quickly that you can't dictate philanthropy to other people. You
Right.
can't tell people what to give to, or who to give to, or what causes to support, because it's a very personal thing. And it really does start there. It starts in identifying what was important to you, what impacts or events in your life or experiences that either you had or that you've witnessed, that you are willing to be connected to, and have an undeniable need to help. And so if you can get clear on those things first, then it's easier to start going through the motions. And the motions are, how do you connect to a cause? What do you look for in charities, like in terms of their impact, their social return on investment, if you will, how they impact, the best leverage that they bring to the table, and then understanding actually how the mechanisms of how to give. And I use the term time, influence, and money. You have those three things, so you
Right.
can give of your time and volunteering. You can influence, in other words, be an advocate, a board member, and provide information that's helpful
Right.
for others. And you can give hard dollars, right? And all of those things are on the table.
Yeah.
But none of it starts if you don't figure out what you connect to. And
Right.
let me just, because I just recently went over this with somebody, and here's one thing: you don't have to be righteous or virtuous to give. Like everybody has their thing. And I think a lot of people first of all, think they have to be rich and wealthy to give their money, which is not true, because it's not just about money. And you'd be surprised what you can do with a little, or what you believe is a little. But secondly, there's this sense that I'm not good enough. I don't deserve. Who am I to make a difference in other people's lives? I'm just trying to figure it out for myself. I'm just trying to get by. And that mindset keeps, I think, a lot of really good giving, or at least the pursuit of it, at bay. So,
Absolutely.
I just think that there's no, like, you don't have to feel virtuous. You don't have to be one of those philanthropists. You just have to start, and start by getting, clear on what it is that matters to you, and then start investigating how you can help.
Yeah. I mean, to me, you have to get creative in what you do. Cause again, you're absolutely right. It's not about money. It's not, well, not always about money. It's about what can you give back to society of what you're passionate about, what you're good about, what comes easy to you. That's something that I like to do. Is for me, I've been in IT for 30 years. So technology it's very easy for me to do technology. And so for me to give back from a technology standpoint, it's valuable to people to help them with technology, but it doesn't cost me anything but some time, some effort, and some creativity. And yeah, there's a lot of ways we can give. Now, how do you think, when you started doing more philanthropy stuff and you started giving stuff, do you think it had a impact on the overall balance of your life?
It it fundamentally changed everything, because it changes the way you speak with people. It changes the way you market. Like, let's say if you're in business at all, and charitable acts are not business acts, right?
Right.
And it doesn't mean that the two can't coexist, but they really aren't. Like, I don't run a charity. I'm not a charity myself.
Right.
I have to, and I desire to earn an income and make money doing it, make a profit. And sometimes we tend to forget, when we're only focused on business and profit, about the other parties involved, and our impact and what the outcome might be. And when you begin to look at it, through charitable or giving eyes, impact mindset, you tend to spend a lot more time considering the other person, or the other side, the customer, their benefit.
Right.
And that extends beyond the customer to all of those uninterested people who are just kind of dabbling around the outside of your world and your marketing. And when you say things and you provide information that's helpful, encouraging, or inspiring, you're really focused on helping. And that, for me, changed. That was the fundamental change about all of this. Is, I may have every desire to sell, but I'm not going to convince you something if you don't want.
Right.
We're going to have a conversation. You'll be informed and educated, and you'll at some point decide if that's the right thing for you.
Right.
So understanding that, innately, was part of the process. So I think it just changed the way I deal with everybody, in any stakeholder in my life and business.
Yeah. So besides, I mean, obviously you have your books and stuff. What else are you doing? Are you doing, like, do you do a lot of coaching with people? Do you do a lot of coaching with businesses? Are you still doing that?
Heck yeah. so prior to the crisis, I had just launched my new book. I had done a lot of work. I had just a bunch of professional stuff, done a podcast, and I was just launching, obviously, a speaking and training career, a reemergence, because of the book, down in the States and across North America. So that got kiboshed pretty fast. But all along, I provide, mid-career business owners and entrepreneurs who are, like, struggling to serve, how to figure that out in their life and do for them what I did for myself a decade ago. And so I coach one-on-one regularly. I'm spending so much time on Zoom with that. I love it. I really do miss my peeps. I'm a big hug guy. I like to hug, so miss that. And workshops and training. We're doing webinars and doing online free webinars, and some paid work and training as well. So yeah, small group training, everything's moved to the online platform for
Yeah.
the time being. And that's an enhancement in some ways. And there's some old stuff that we're going to all miss. By now we're missing it. When you get energized by the audience or the people in the room, nothing beats it. So finding that magic through a video medium isn't a challenge, but it isn't the same.
Yeah, it's not the
You know,
same.
yeah, like I spent my first decade of my investment management career, maybe the first 6 years, there was no internet really, and no email, and no messenger. Like we were on the phone, I was on 6 phones, and you had to understand people's emotions, and you still did for years. You have to understand their emotions, how they're feeling, and you have to get all of that through an audio medium.
Right.
So I think some people get better at understanding the emotions that people are bringing to the table through even a video and audio than others. I was lucky enough to be like forcibly trained to do that for decades.
Right.
So I'm not suffering in this medium, but I really do prefer the live. So one-on-one coaching, group coaching. Right now, I'm helping people, authors, because we have time. We're isolated a bit. Why not write your book? I definitely have been, I've offered free webinars on that. We moved to a 6-month book course. I have 5 authors presently. 2 of them are in the final, like getting their books done this month. So it's an exciting journey for business owners and entrepreneurs to take. And I'm helping them get it done, which is effectively the hardest thing to do is get a book done. It's easy to start a book. We've all got notes somewhere.
Yeah.
Books that never got finished. So I'm just helping people do that. It's an achievement in itself.
Yeah. If I ever do a book, it'll just be on all the stupid crap I've done and
Hey,
survived.
There's an audience for that, and it's very cathartic. Sean, I'll have to tell you, getting that stuff out of your head. I mean, not every single thing in my books is like the most profound thing. Some of it's just stuff I needed to get out of my head and put on paper.
Yeah. So how do you journal? I mean, do you just write it and just start journaling? See, that's my biggest thing is I can't get it out of my head onto paper in a meaningful or understandable way. I mean, it's
I experience that. No question. There are times I bring in other people when I suffer that way, when I can't, bring all of my thoughts together. I have just a jumbled mess. I bring the writers. I bring in external objective coaching type people because there is a way to get through it, and they can see what you can't, just like in life and in coaching.
right.
An objective outside observer isn't in the bubble. The other thing is just developing good habits to just do it a little bit at a time, get it done. And then I've got all kinds of tricks that I've used over the years to get books done. I mean, I wrote this last book basically on a 10-hour car drive and between Calgary, Alberta, and Whistler, British Columbia. And the bulk of the book was written, if you will, on audio. I just recorded it when I arrived at my condo in Whistler. It was delivered in my inbox, and I just cleaned up the transcript.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So, ramblings of a madman, who knows, but it was cohesive enough that I could make a book out of it.
Right.
So there are all kinds of different tricks, but here's one of the key things, and this is probably more important, is have an idea of why you're doing it and to what end. And if you're able to, with clarity, get to that, and that's what I spend most of my time working with my authors really close. Like these are entrepreneur, business owner authors, right? And we have to get very clear on why the heck they're doing it in the first place, and
Right.
to what end. What is the point? And once we figure that out, you can create a pretty straight line to that success, and enjoy all the the levels of mastery as you go along.
Right.
It's not a smooth ride, but there is a clear, once you get a straight line figured out, it doesn't matter if it's not a smooth ride. It's going to be what it is.
Yeah.
It's part of the journey, right?
Yeah. So how do you think this is? So, I've kind of have a prediction that it's going to go one of two ways. People are either it's going to absolutely kill retail, what's going on right now with the COVID and stuff is absolutely going to either kill retail, kill the public sector, and people are just going to come isolated, and all they're going to be doing is remote stuff like this. They're going to be doing Zooms, they're going to be doing, or I think if it actually lasts long enough, people are going to get so upset with having to be around that it's going to absolutely explode our social. I think people are going to recognize how important our social life really is. If this goes any further, it's
Yeah. Yeah. Like I don't think retail environments will ever be the same.
right.
Uh, and maybe that's okay. I don't like going into crowded shopping areas or retail areas. So I like to go in, buy, but I do like the tangible experience of that consumerism side. So I don't, and I think a lot of people are fairly tangible as online as anyone's ever gotten. I know that people open that box and they like to touch it, right?
Yeah.
And there's stuff going back because it wasn't what they thought.
Right.
So I, it will evolve. I think technology plays a huge role. I think
Yeah.
smart glass, like for a tech guy, smart glass
Oh yeah.
and audio and visual recognition and geolocation, like all of that stuff. You walk through a mall that has got stores that are really just like small hallways with the products, and you're identified out front of it, and they give you all the things that you might want to
Right.
look at, and you either order it and go and it's home for you before you get there, or you go in and try it. Like I could see all that type of
Yeah. I see
thing
the whole
happen.
virtual, yeah, the whole virtual experience of doing that. As a matter of fact, like for I do a lot of cycling and a lot of running and stuff. I use a thing called Zwift, where I have basically a computer hooked up to, sensors hooked up to my trainer and to my treadmill, and I run and cycle with people from around the world. We get on, and it's literally like being on a ride with people, and you sit there and chat, and you're actually doing the work. I mean, you're cycling and but it's, I think things like that will really change how we operate.
And the great thing about that is, and I agree. So the great thing about that is all of a sudden, because millions and millions and millions of eyeballs are now forced into using technology, all the clunkiness of that will disappear because it's going to be forced to be smoother, easier, better, right? Like just like retail in practical sense got so good at pushing goods through from one end to the user, so too will our internet experience. It'll be amazing.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
really anxious to see how
I am too.
technology leaps because we're going to do a leap. I said this before. Um, Africa had no phones, right? Basically, barely anyone had landlines, let alone a phone. And
Right.
then, I don't know, 10 or 15 years gap, and everyone has a cell phone, and commerce is being done on the fly, right? Big gap. We're going to have this gap that it's too big to fathom. I don't know what it is, but I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited to see what type of creativity people are going to come up with during this, and what it's gonna do. Because I never did online, virtual riding and running before this. I had to, it's like I've got to do something, and it's amazing. It's like, man, I don't know if I want to go back out now.
Yeah, it's pretty that's pretty hilarious. And you speaker and you've spoken in front of audiences before. And I was looking into holograms, and they're 38 to 50 grand for a hologram machine. So it's a little bit of a barrier. Still, that's an expensive machine for who
Yeah,
knows what return. But I actually looked into it because I wouldn't mind figuring out how to either put myself in a group or put a group in around me. I don't know, but who knows what that technology.
yeah. I heard of one technology that God, I can't remember who was talking about it, but it's almost a virtual conference where people actually come into the conference. They sit down, and you have speakers up front, and it's an actual completely virtual conference, and so you kind of get, yeah. So the speaker
I
gets,
can't wait because I got to
yeah.
figure that out because I want to be out there on the road.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, as a speaker, you go out and you're in front of everybody like you would on a stage. And for the participants, they're in a chair just like they would be at a conference. So I think there's going to be a lot of good things to come out. But yeah, there's still no substitution for the one-on-one and the human interaction. And I don't think that'll ever go away.
Now, 2008 was a crisis of monumental proportions, and 3 years later, people forgot it.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, I tell you, I miss sport. I miss being a spectator of live sport because I think that this is one of the biggest challenges with this is there's nothing live that can excite and inspire. And sport is probably one of the places where you get the most incidents of inspiring and amazing. Like you go, holy cow,
Right.
every 2 minutes, right? Especially in basketball and hockey, like those two things are there's such a constant dynamic activity,
Yeah.
and even the Olympics that we're missing this year. So to be part of something so unpredictable and awe-inspiring on a regular basis, that for me has been a big. I realize how much I miss that.
Yeah.
Because it's always the thing where you go, wow, I never thought I'd ever see that.
Yeah. And
And
I think, yeah, I think it's the energy of other people. It's even like, even when you go to like a conference, or a
yeah,
sporting event or anything, even at a conference, you don't get the same experience when you're doing it online. And I think there's an energy with people being together. And that energy is what we're truly, truly missing.
so yesterday in 2 hours, I wrote an ebook. Like I wrote a book, 20-page book, wrote it, published it, like got it done. And it's funny, these things just you're getting forced into doing things. But I wrote a little bit more. One of it was like how to position yourself in live audiences, and I talked about that very thing that you just mentioned, the audience and the energy. That there's
Right.
nothing that can really replace that exchange of physical energy. It goes back to that whole space thing you and I were talking about
Yeah.
earlier. Um,
Absolutely.
there's ions and there's molecular and there's subatomic, and we're all in it together, and those things exchange while you're in person,
Yeah.
right? And so there is something to energy. You can't get it through a phone
No, no,
or
you
a
can't.
screen, right?
Yeah.
You just can't.
No.
And that's why people are drained after a day on Zoom and not drained after a day with humans.
Right.
Not in the same way. In fact, most people are energized from a day with humans.
Yeah.
So it's a thing. Anyways,
Yeah.
there's a blog. Maybe we'll have to put that out there.
I never really thought about philanthropy and all this until the last maybe 10 years, maybe. It's just something
Mm.
that, it's something that we're never really taught as kids to, at least a lot of people, aren't necessarily taught that. So,
Yeah, it's a surprising thing, but most people are just trying to go get by and trying to
yeah,
figure it out,
yeah,
and they never thought it never occurred to them. One of the biggest things in charities, like charities don't get the gifts because the number one reason is because they never asked. Ironically,
yeah,
that's the biggest reason charities don't get gifts because they didn't ask.
yeah,
Um, and therefore we didn't think to maybe do it. And I can say that while I was community minded and I gave back in a lot of ways, I didn't think or plan my philanthropy until I changed my mindset. And when I just realized that I'm gonna leave this world. It's gonna be fun. We do epic shit. We'll go back to the beginning. We do epic stuff, and part of that is having a big impact. And if I can leave this world in a way that my kids and their kids know me by name and the values I stood for, then I did okay. So that's kind of where I want to end up.
yeah. And it's that abundance mindset. If you have an abundant mindset, and if you have a closed mindset, you're not gonna see the value of giving and charity. It's just not gonna be there. But
No, no,
yeah, not at all.
Sean, I want to compliment. Sorry, I mean to interrupt.
No,
I
no.
want to compliment you because I want to make sure I get this out. I looked into a little bit about what you're doing. I've understood a little bit about your background. I think it's admirable how you've decided. Maybe you had that moment that I had a decade or more ago where I just said, there's got to be more to my life,
Right.
and you're pursuing it. And I just applaud you for that. I think it's great, and I appreciate it because I don't take every podcast I do, and I do my homework, and I just think you're doing good stuff.
Well, I appreciate that, and yeah, for me, this is part of my way, at least at where I'm at right now, of giving back. Trying to share information, and I say this on several episodes, but one of the biggest things I get from being able to do podcasts is I get to talk with some of the most amazing people throughout the world, and it is the knowledge share and just connecting with people, like-minded people, is just absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best things I get to do.
No, that's great.
we'll put all this in the show notes and stuff, but how do people get in contact with you? What's the best way for them to contact you?
Well, there's a couple ways. One is just my website is growgetgive.com. Like that's a simple. To find my book, you can either go to Amazon or growgetgivesecrets.com and pick up the book. And basically, I sometimes tell people if if you're looking for me, you don't find me on social media, you got a problem. You're typing something wrong because um, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, you name YouTube. So easy way, info@mikeskrypnek.com. That's Mike, SKRYPNEK.com. Just reach out. I actually pick up my emails. I don't have a service for that.
Yeah. Oh, that's that's good.
I just have a process. I know how to get rid of. I can weed things out. But it's like all those people who say, "Well, I open all my letters and cards." I open it. I like it.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. And everyone, go to the show notes where there's a link for Mike's website and his book, Grow, Get, Give. And if you're listening to this episode at its release, Mike is doing a killer complimentary webinar on Your Book is the Best Business Card. It's on May 13th, where he's going to share the secrets that the big time publishers don't want you to know. And Thinking Big Tribe, we are very close to our next milestone, and I need your help to reach more people who can benefit from the content, especially during these difficult times. Ratings and reviews directly impact search rankings for this podcast. So please help us get more ratings and reviews. If you haven't already subscribed and rated the podcast, please go to the link in the show notes to the Apple Podcast. Once you're there, simple, just subscribe, click the 5-star rating, of course, and write a brief review. Please share this podcast with your network and invite them to subscribe and rate the show as well. And again, thank you so much for helping me reach more people worldwide and empowering them to start thinking big.